The surge in hate crimes against Asian Americans only getting worse, and some of the accounts are extremely violent.
And when the door opened, he stepped forward and slashed me. Then I put my hand on my face, and then when I look at my hands, there's blood oozing. So I cried for help, and I cried for help, but nobody helped.
Let's get to NBC News correspondent Vicky Nguyen. Vicky, it was so hard to hear. Mr. Quintana there slashed on the subway. We've heard about a 52-year-old woman attacked outside a New York City bakery on Tuesday. A 91-year-old man pushed to the ground in San Francisco last month. These are just horrific stories. What else are you hearing?
Yeah, Allison, thanks for having me on to talk about this. And thankfully, that 91-year-old man is recovering from his injuries. But I think one of the incidents, the most disturbing, that really kicked off the social media outrage and the public outrage was the death of 84-year-old Visha Ratanapakdi. He was the Thai man in San Francisco who had just gotten his COVID-19 vaccine, had just celebrated his birthday, a father, a grandfather, walking on the sidewalk in broad daylight when a surveillance camera captured his attacker crossing the street, shoving him to the ground. He never regained consciousness. So that, I think, awakened a real outrage. And that's what's gotten this conversation started, and rightfully so, because the metrics back it up. Alameda County's DA, that's out in the Bay Area where Oakland is located, where some of these attacks have been happening in their Chinatown. Over a 2-week span, they recorded 18 incidents of anti-Asian racist attacks. You showed the numbers from Stop AAPI Hate, talking about the 2,800 incidents since the pandemic started. That ranges from people being spat upon to being yelled at to the physical violence that you're seeing, even denials of service at businesses. And here's a statistic that really stood out to me. They said that 7% of their accounts involve Asian American victims who are over 60 years old. Imagine that. These are the elderly who are under attack, Allison.
Yeah. It's horrible to think that any Asian person in America is going through this, Vicky, but the older folks, you're right. It's just really heartbreaking. If I understand correctly, many of these attacks are going unreported. Why is that in particular?
Yeah, even these numbers, this data that we have that's hopefully prompting some attention and action at the federal level are likely vastly underreported. And part of it is cultural. Look, the Asian American community is super diverse. There are many languages, and in some cases, many language barriers. And also there's a cultural reluctance to kind of draw attention to ourselves or to report these things. So 2 things can happen to change that. 1, our community needs to speak up. The younger generation needs to encourage the older generation. And we're seeing that over Twitter, over Instagram, where there's a new wave of volunteers coming together, offering to patrol the streets to watch out for our elderly, and also to bring attention and to say enough is enough. The second thing that needs to happen is lawmakers and law enforcement need to recognize that this is happening and address it. In New York, it's been really encouraging. The NYPD started seeing an uptick in these anti-Asian hate incidents last year after the pandemic. They established a task force. It's now permanent. 25 officers speaking 11 different languages. They're reacting to reports of crime, but they're also being proactive. They're going on social media, scouring for incidents that they can investigate. It's that partnership that is so important. And let's take a listen to the co-founder of Stop AAPI Hate about the importance of reporting.
And so I think police and law enforcement need to be sensitive to the spate of racism, to ask questions about what was said during the attack, if it was racially motivated or not, and to pursue it if it was racially motivated. A lot of times these types of crimes, if there are hate crimes that are racially motivated, they go underreported, and people continue to get victimized in this way. It's just terrible.
Yeah, well, I encourage all the Asian Americans to speak out, because if you don't speak out, nobody will help you.
Hey, Allison. Yeah, and I know that we talked a little bit about this last year, actually, when you had us on to bring attention to it. I wish I could tell you it's gone away, but it hasn't. And I think some of it is incumbent on the community to really rise up and stay together and realize that, you know, black, brown, whatever, we are all in this together and we need to be allies.
Yeah. It is so disappointing and so discouraging to see. But like you said, if we could band together to fight against this, I have to ask as well, Vicky, we talked about older folks. How about kids? NBC is reporting that some school principals are concerned about Asian American students' safety when they go back to school. What can they do? How are they trying to protect those students? And what are some of parents' top concerns? They have to be terrified to send their young ones back to school with concerns of violence.
I mean, this is such a concern across all age levels right now in this community. Stop AAPI Hate did a survey of young people over the summer and found 1 in 4 said they have experienced racist bullying. So these are not just verbal attacks, but they're also physical attacks. Lots of concerns about kids going to and from school and experiencing this in their own classrooms. What can be done to mitigate it? Well, experts say one thing is teach Asian American history, teach the contributions of Asians to this country, that they are a part of the fabric of America. And also for families to talk about these things and to be a bystander. That means, you know, obviously be safe, but if you witness this, speak up against racism, be an ally. These are things that we can teach our kids that can help mitigate some of these effects of this racism that's occurring and that's ongoing.
Yeah, Vicky, we need to get to know each other better. We need to appreciate one another better. We need to realize that we have more in common, right? Than what unites us is greater than what separates us, right? We say that so often. We have more in common than we don't. Vicky, I know we had you on last year, and we'll keep having you on until this stops. Thank you so much. It is such important reporting.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Always great to talk with you, Allison.
You too, Vicky.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.